fears.
Huh?
There is a team on a mission. They are the Fear Busters. Who you gonna call? Fear Busters.
What's up, Fear Busters? Have any of you ever had a really big problem to take care of? Have you ever been faced with something so huge, enormous, gigantic, and just so big that you didn't think you'd ever be able to get past it? Yikes! That's a big mess. Yeah, sometimes we find ourselves in the middle of really big obstacles. It might be at home, in school, or even with friends. And sometimes it can feel so overwhelming that we get scared. A big test at school, an argument with a friend, confessing to something you know was wrong, or even a dentist appointment. Sometimes all of these kinds of things can seem like really big things to get through. Ooh, hey, you know what that sound is, right? Yeah, it's the fear mail siren. That sound means we got some fear mail to answer. So I'll be right back. All right, let's see who needs our help this time.
Hey Fearbusters, my name is Melissa. I've been playing soccer for a year now, but always as a backup. But last week, one of our star players got hurt and now I have to fill in for him. I'm excited but also really scared. I mean, next week is a championship game and the team we're playing is undefeated. And the players are really fast and so much better than me. I'm really afraid that I'm going to fail my team and not play well. What can I do to make sure I don't let my fear get in the way?
Ooh, that is a tough one. On the one hand, it's so awesome that Melissa gets to play soccer in the championship game. But if she's only been playing backup here and there, I can see why she would be sort of freaked out and scared. Especially if this other team is as good as she says they are. It probably seems like a giant thing to overcome. But you know what? That makes me think of an awesome true story from the Bible. Watch this.
Slapstick Theater. David and Goliath. This is David.
Hey!
David was a shepherd who lived in Bethlehem. David was chosen by God to be the next king of Israel when he was just a boy. But David had to wait a very long time until that promise would come true because there was another king of Israel named Saul. Saul led the armies of Israel. One day, King Saul was with his army near the valley of Elah. On the other side of this valley, the Philistines, the enemies of Israel, gathered their army ready to fight. The Philistines had a giant warrior named Goliath who challenged the Israelites.
Hey!
Goliath spoke badly of God and his people. He shouted and taunted them, saying, "Choose one man to come down here and fight me." The Israelites and King Saul were very afraid. Meanwhile, David's father sent David to bring some food to his brothers and their captain. Goliath came out of the Philistines' army, and David heard him shout his usual mean taunts to the army of Israel.
Whoa, what?
As soon as the Israelites saw Goliath, they began to run away in fright.
See ya!
David asked, "Who is this Philistine anyway, that he has allowed to defy the armies of the living God?" David's questions were reported to King Saul, and the king sent for him.
Hi!
David said, "Don't worry about this Philistine. I'll go fight him." Saul said, "There's no way you can fight him and win. You're only a boy."
Wait!
But David told Saul that he had taken care of his father's sheep and rescued them from lions and bears. Then David declared, "The Lord who rescued me from the claws of the lion and bear will rescue me from this Philistine." So Saul said, "All right, go ahead and may the Lord be with you." David picked up 5 smooth stones from a stream. Then, armed only with his shepherd's staff and sling, he started across the valley to fight Goliath. When Goliath saw him coming, He sneered at him and yelled bad things at David. But David said, "You come to me with a sword, spear, and javelin, but I come to you in the name of the Lord of heaven's armies." Goliath moved closer to attack, and David quickly ran out to meet him. He hurled a stone from his sling and hit Goliath in the forehead. The stone sank in, and Goliath stumbled and fell to the ground. So David triumphed over the Philistine with only a sling and a stone, for he had no sword. But he knew the power of God and trusted God to win the battle against the giant.
David wanted to honor God, and he had so much faith in God that he knew he'd be protected from big bad Goliath. Listen to what we're told in 1 Samuel 17:24. As soon as the Israelite army saw him, they began to run away in fright. So the Israelite soldiers were terrified of Goliath. But not David. David knew that if he trusted in God, he could stand up against the giant. You see, God had already protected David from lions and bears while he was watching his father's sheep. So David knew that God would also protect him from Goliath. Listen to what David said. "The Lord who rescued me from the claws of the lion and the bear will rescue me from this Philistine." Because David knew the truth of who God is, he was able to face Goliath with boldness. David had faith that God was more powerful than Goliath. So our bottom line today says, we can bust fear with faith in God's power. Repeat that after me. We can bust fear with faith in God's power. Can you imagine going up against someone like Goliath, though? The Bible tells us that Goliath was 9 feet tall. He was this really huge warrior that had a lot of fighting experience, making fun of anyone that dared to come up against him. But to David, the difference in size did not matter. Neither did the fact that Goliath had a sword and a spear and David had only his sling and a few small rocks from the river. David said, "You come to me with sword, spear, and javelin, but I come to you in the name of the Lord of heaven's armies." David had so much faith and confidence in God's power. He continued by telling Goliath that God would give David the victory over the giant. Goliath would be killed and everyone would know about the God of Israel. And that's exactly what happened. David took a stone, he put it in his sling, and he launched it at Goliath. The stone hit Goliath in the forehead and he fell over. Goliath was defeated. David's trust in God's power shows us what it means to live out our bottom line. We can bust fear with faith in God's power. Let's say that together. We can bust fear with faith in God's power. Can you imagine being that brave in the face of danger? Well, if we have a personal relationship with God, we can receive that kind of courage through the power of God's Holy Spirit. So what do we know is true about God that can help us have faith in Him when we are facing something hard or scary? Well, we know that He is all-powerful and that He loves us, and we know that He can give victory to His people. So when we really know who God is, like how God is our protector, we can have that same bravery and courage that David had when he faced Goliath. Let's say our bottom line again. We can bust fear with faith in God's power. Now, you guys will probably never have to take on a giant with a sling and stones, but you may have some fears that need busting. Maybe it's something like our friend Melissa was facing with her soccer game. Just remember that whatever you're going through, even if it feels like a giant obstacle standing in your way, you don't need to feel small, worried, or scared. You can bust that fear by having faith in God's power to give you victory. So that means fear busted. Let's say our bottom line again and choose to believe it. We can bust fear with faith in God's power. All right, I'll see you guys next time.